Well, hi everybody. This is DearMamaSal, and today's topic is we are going to be talking about emotional triggers, part two. We talked a little bit about it on part one, so for those of you who didn't see that, go to the DearMamaSal page if you're not there already, and you will see there's a replay of that broadcast if you want it. And so today we're going to do a follow-up to that. Yeah, the one that we did on Friday was about how to recognize them. And what we're going to be doing today is going to be what to do about them. And we all get emotional triggers at times of our lives. And this is really about understand why you get them and how you can control them maybe a little bit better than you've been doing before. That is our hope. As usual, we're going to start the broadcast with a few housekeeping items. We're going to be welcoming people in. Hi there, Kerry. It takes people a little while just to get here, so we're going to be just welcoming them. And then also we're going to be doing a few birthdays and other updates that I like to do so that people who are followers, hi there, Linda, so that people who are followers know who's having birthday coming up and things like that. So we are just about ready to go. Hi there, Jody. Good to see you. And did any of you get the messenger notice via Facebook? I thought I would try that just to see whether that works. I'm not trying to overload you with updates or stuff like that. I'm just trying to think which one works better for people. Part of me, I'm still not quite sure. So I'm working on it. And today we're going to be talking about the action part of emotional triggers. Do you all understand that, right? I have to thank you all for coming along this series with me, because it's really been amazing to me how many people we appear to have helped with this without actually meaning to. I would like to apologize for the fact that there was a lack of other vlogs from me this week. As some of you know, I've been sick with the flu. And so doing over and above the broadcast was more than I could manage, I'm afraid. However, in a few minutes, an alarm's going to go off on my cell phone, because I am baking bread in the oven, and I thought it would be really nice to be able to take it straight out of the oven and show you. Because, and yes, I did videotape it this time. So I thought that just would be a cute thing for you to be able to see. So when the alarm goes off, I'm going to need to go and get the bread, and so that I can show it to you. And I'll be missing for a few minutes while I get it safe and ready for dinner. Yeah. I thought actually it's funny because a couple of people have asked me about this new way of making bread, and I don't know if you guys heard about that. I know, Linda, and I want to tell you something. This way of making it it just is so good. And if you can believe it, you actually start by cooking up some flour and water together. I mean, why? Why would you do that, right? But as you will see, it makes the greatest bread. It's really so tasty. So that's why. All right, so we continue to have thoughts and prayers for Erin. She gave us an update, which is on the previous video. I read it out for everybody, so if you want to catch up with that, just see the beginning of the previous video. Lauren is doing really well as well. She made the decision to stay in hospital and look after herself, for which we are very grateful. She had the option to go home, but I think she realized that going home meant she'd be probably trying to look after her mom, rather than looking after herself. And there were some very strict recommendations that she, stay in bed and not even get into her wheelchair. So she was smart enough to realize she's going to get better faster if she stays in hospital. Jody continues to be our amazing viewer who not only has been really quite sick of Relate, but still is here to assist us in the broadcast and be our admin. So big round of applause for Jody. I don't know how you're doing it, Jody, but I need you to know just how grateful I am. Kerry, I know that you've had a tough 24 hours of it. And so I wanted to give you a really big heads up for the fact that you are here today. I wondered whether you would be or not. So well done. But I'd like to think, Kerry, that this is a learning lesson for not only you, but everybody else around you. And you've been handling extremely well. And I also wanted to give a heads up about Becca, who really is struggling. And if any of you are trying to help her, understand that the best way to help Becca at this time might be just to not be an enabler. And, we've been talking about that recently. So she's obviously grieving and obviously in a lot of pain, and we love her dearly, and none of us want to see her suffer. So let's help her in as a friend, not as an enabler. All right. Birthdays. Happy birthday today for Lizzie. I'm not sure if we'll see her, but it is her birthday today. And that who can resist that smile of hers, right? And on the 2nd, we have Mel's birthday, for those of you who know Mel, down in Florida. And on the 11th, Roseanne. So those are the ones I know about. Now, I'm going to wait a little bit until Beth comes in, because I want to give her special kudos if she gets here. I don't have... There she is. You must have heard me. Beth, I really want to congratulate you. For those of you who don't know, Beth has gone absolutely from not eating more than a few calories a day to suddenly eating a lot of them. And I wanted to really give you a huge round of applause here, Beth, because you really took control of your life in the last 24 hours. And I am very, very proud of you. Not only did you start eating like a human, but you also, accomplished some other things that were amazing. However, and this is the however for you, Beth. No, thank yourself. Don't thank me. However, Beth, I do need to give you a little bit of a heads up, if you don't mind. Just give me permission to do that, if you will. I'm not going to give you a 2x4, just a heads up. So, okay. So just logically think about it, Beth. You've gone from not taking enough calories into suddenly taking 3 times as many, if I understand it correctly. Now, that's going to be a bit of a shock to your system. Does that make sense? Your system basically, didn't need to function very much because you weren't putting very much into it. And suddenly you put a whole stack into it. So my feeling about this is absolutely congratulations, and we are all blown away, and you are definitely showing us that you want to change. There's no doubt in my mind about that. However, if you start getting stomach cramps or, does anybody else know what happens when you suddenly go from not enough food to enough? My sense of it would be stomach cramps are possible. Perhaps, the movement of the food through your system. How else can I say that? You're a bit bloated. Exactly. Because your body isn't. So drink lots of water would be my, hi, Debbie. Yes, you may need some Pepto-Bismol. All right. Because, you've got enzymes in your body that going, what happened? they haven't got enough probably to digest everything. And so yes, Pepto-Bismol would be a really great idea if you got some. Yes, I'm thinking drink lots of water as well. Good to see you, Debbie. However, Beth, just amazing transformation. Now, what we're going to be doing, though, good. Just try and take in, especially until your body starts learning how to process that much food. Just give it a fair chance and give it lots of water so that it can flush it out for you. I've got a feeling. But by the way, if you start burping a lot, you understand why, right? You've got things going on in your body that haven't happened before. When you told me how many calories you'd ingested, I went, yikes. Can any of you imagine taking in 3 times as many calories in from what you are today and then take in 3 times as many? You can probably imagine what a shock that would be to your system. Yeah, think about that, Beth. But here's the good news, Beth. If you can keep this up for 21 days, you've got this beaten. That's a nice way of wording it, Debbie. Yes, Debbie says, depending, I would imagine, on what you've eaten, and I think we know what you've eaten, but it may sort of go through pretty quickly, if you know what we mean. So don't go too far away from home, just in case. How can we say this any more politely? All right, so I don't think there's anybody that's new to the broadcast here, but let me just say it, and I probably should put this reminder a bit lower down the list for next time. I will make a note to myself to do that. If you're new to the broadcast and would like to be updated the next time broadcaster schedules, make sure, number one, you're subscribed here on YouTube, that you click the bell. Is there a bell on this page? I don't have the same visual as you do. So is there a little bell, a YouTube bell on the right-hand side, probably next to my picture or something? Yes. Okay. So if you click the bell there, then anytime I'm about to broadcast, it will give you a heads up that way as well. And remember to follow DearMamaSal on YouTube and not YouTube, on Facebook and Twitter. Well, of course, on YouTube. Yeah. If you haven't subscribed on here, do so. Like, hello. So I think, I don't know about the rest of you, but I have this need to create the 2x4 award. For somebody that we hit with a 2x4 and they woke up. What do you think? I'm not quite sure. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Okay, so I was playing this week and I made a button out of artwork. Can you see that? So I was wondering. No, I didn't. I went to go and I tried to think, what could I give as a 2x4 award? That's what I was thinking of. But then I remembered I made the button. And is this the one that you liked, Beth? Well done, Kerry, on getting stuff done. I'm coming to that in just a second. Well, I don't know why. I just thought I'd try it. Do you think anybody would wear it? Okay, so here you go. Beth, this has your name on it. This has your name on it. If you can average 1,200 calories a day for a month, right? Does that make sense? I will keep this and not sell it. All right, so I made some cute new. Oh, this is to remind me to take the bread out of the oven. So I just want to make sure that you guys. Yeah, Jody's got a bread. How do you do those things? I don't know how to do those. Do you want me to go and get it? For those of you who, I just let's leave it another 5 minutes. But Jody, feel free to remind me. I just want to let it sort of properly cook. So Beth, I'm not going to sell this. This has got your name on it. And if you average 1,200 calories, that's lower than you have to, right? How many calories does it say you ought to be taking in? Actually, Debbie, that's the reason I started making my own bread. All right. So is that fair? That's 1,200 calories. That means you can have a bad day and not eat enough. What do we think yeah, I think if you can average 1,200 for a month, this is yours. Thank you very much, Jody. All right. Is that enough of incentive? And I will pay for the shipping and everything. Okay. Well done, Erin. Hi there. Any updates, Erin? Just let me know and I'll read them out for people. Or actually I can read it out for the people who are watching it on the replay. I also wanted to give a round of applause to Kim. And Kim got her bedroom done. So well done. Very, very excited about that. And the question that I have is, oh, actually, and Sophie, as you know, is busy on her bedroom again. Sorry, has anyone want to make a commitment to get something done this week? And what I want to do is start actually putting you into the system and make sure we can give you credit if you do it. If you don't do it, we're not going to punish you in any way, but just so that we can do this congratulations on getting things done. I find one of the greatest things about getting things done is how you feel. Am I right about that, Beth? Now, for example, yesterday I had a really small goal that was to get a couple of boxes down into the garage. Hang on one second. That rolled by really quickly for me. Let me see what you said here. Okay, I need to do something. I can't get rid of my emoji screen. It's there we go. Maybe that's it. There we go. Now, what's Fly Lady? All right. Now, one of the things, Linda, that I recommend to people is stop promising things, because I don't think that you are a bad person, but I know what it does to your system when you promise something and you don't keep a promise. Don't try. You know, I don't like that either. Just say it is my intent. Well, Debbie, it wasn't what we started to do, but I found that people seem to enjoy the fun of doing it together, you know, where we're all doing little things. Now, I went down into the garage to put some boxes down there, and I stayed in the garage. I know you guys are not going to believe this. And I literally started putting empty boxes into the garage. I know that I just cleared them all up. But now what I'm doing is sorting. In other words, when I pick something up, it's a garden thing. It goes in the garden box. This is a glue. Okay, that goes in the glue and silicone box. Hi, Jonas, welcome. So this to me is, a really big step forward that I've actually managed to do that. Jonas, I just wanted to let you know how much we've been enjoying having you on board. So thank you so much. We appreciate it. We always like to have a male perspective when we're talking about these things. All right. No updates. Really, the migraine is back about every day. Really. And there's nothing they could take because everything would mess up your liver even more. Oh, you poor thing, Aaron. So, some of us understand about those migraine headaches. Well, I'm glad that you've been enjoying it, Jonas. I'm a great believer that we can help ourselves by helping each other, as you know. So I'm really delighted. It's a little bit more work for me this way, but oh, right, before we start the main thing, I want to go and get the bread to show you. Hold on. Oh my gosh, I've just realized I don't have anything to drink either. Hold on. All right. So, for those of you who are wondering, yeah, Jonas, my house does smell absolutely wonderful right now. And by the way, it's a double wonderful because before I baked the bread, I baked cupcakes. So, for those of you who asked me, yes, I did record it this time. Cheers. I was so busy doing that, I forgot to get hydration. So, no latte for the broadcast. All right. So, now just a reminder for you. We're going to be talking about emotional triggers. And today we're going to be talking about, now that we've identified that we have them, what actions do we do and what actions will we do? So we are at about 23 minutes, I think. Jody, I'll have to double check that, but it's around that area. Now you want cupcakes as well. And I'm going to smother them with, what do you call the icing you put on carrot cake? Anyway, some of you know what I'm talking about. Somebody help me, please. Cream cheese. Yeah, I'm covering them with cream cheese frosting. Mm-hmm. You see how good you all are. Thank you. Yeah, icing, very important. All right, so just a reminder that triggering occurs when certain somethings, a trigger, causes a negative emotional response. But as I said on Friday, some of the triggers actually are positive. But we're talking mostly about the negative ones today, all right? The emotional response can be fear, sadness, panic, flashbacks, and pain. And as we were talking about, as well as any physical symptoms associated with those emotions. So let me ask you, when you get a trigger, what what physical reaction do you get? Because I'm certain you've all had a trigger. Do any of you find that you get shortness of breath? You don't breathe properly anymore. You sort of almost hyperventilate. Some of you might recognize that you start to shake a little. Oh, all right. So um, somebody's saying that they mostly get anxiety. Yes, and but what is anxiety? How would you describe the physical feeling inside you, Jonas? All right, Beth's saying body temperature goes up. Now, opposite to that, Jody says she gets a cold tingle and breathing issues. Yeah. Missy, but what does panic do to your body? Think about that, right? We know it's a panic attack. Right? But okay, so Beth's going, she gets hot from the inside out like a hot flash. Now, I don't expect Jonas to understand what that feels like, but it's not pleasant, Jonas. I can tell you that. Jonas is saying his heart rate goes up. Yes, Erin says she can always feel her heart rate go up as well. Yes, Linda, and that's right. Too much adrenaline is pumping, and that's why you get some of those symptoms. Good. Some of you get a loss of appetite, and some of you go for. Did anybody get faint? Yeah, Kerry goes, she either feels hot or cold. It can be either. And it's not any one, it could be either of them. Good. Do any of you have different reactions depending on how serious the trigger is? Now, for example, if I get stressed and I sometimes don't recognize it, but it's like, I don't know about any of you, but I get a pain in the bottom right, my bottom right part of my head. Um, I get this incredible headache that just happens right in this area when I have had a reaction. I've stressed out on something and I'm not aware of it. So I now listen to those headaches. When I get those, I know I've done something strange. Now, just so that we are all clear, I trust that you all know that I am not a doctor or a therapist or anything like that. I am just somebody that cares enough to share some of my experiences with you. And so I would ask that we're going to be asking a series of questions. And if you find that you're already upset, please don't listen to them because I don't want to trigger on a trigger. But maybe re-listen to the replay, once you've settled down a bit. And the other thing is, if you find that during the broadcast you start to get any of those symptoms, take a break and go back and listen to the rest of it another time. Am I making sense? Right. So Kerry says that not only can she feel her blood pressure go up, um, but she also feels like she might upchuck at any moment. So that's interesting. I saw a really interesting quote from John Grant, who apparently is a musician that I didn't know about, but I had to look him up because I didn't know. But here's what he said, and I thought some of you might relate to this. He said, I still deal with triggers and neurosis that I've developed over the decades. But I do think that I have a great amount of compassion for people who feel they don't fit in, or people who feel they have trouble finding their place in this world. How many of you can relate to that? That you just sort of didn't quite fit in with the rest of the world? Yeah, and that's why I thought I'd actually give you that quote. And I would like to suggest that being normal is not really a high recommendation in my book, right? I like abnormal people, the people who don't fit into the norm, because I find them fascinating. And to me, there's a reason why you don't fit in. I'd like to suggest that most people in this room have at some level suffered more than most people and therefore have a whole different perspective on the world. Just my view. So, just a reminder, be aware that not all triggers are bad ones. And for that, I say just remember your reaction when you hear music from your youth. I just sort of go, oh, yeah, I remember that. Or how about, yeah, I remember him. I loved being in love. It was, yeah. I mean, I did it very badly, but oh gosh, I remember that feeling so well. And then, who sent me this? I think it's somebody in this room, and just tell me who sent me this. Consider for a moment that what you call your personality is actually a composite of habits and behavioral patterns you develop to cope with trauma. Now ask yourself, who am I outside of my pain? Who would I be if I stopped living life as a product of my story? How many of you are going, wow, that's deep, Sal? And I've always wanted to do that workshop. I wrote a workshop. I know you're going to, oh gosh, I might have to rewrite it, but I wrote a workshop about if you really knew me. Okay, I'll say it again. Consider for a moment. Kerry sent it to me. Thank you, Kerry. All right, consider for a moment that what you call your personality is actually just a composite of habits and behavioral patterns you develop to cope with trauma. Now ask yourself, who am I outside this pain? Who would I be if I stopped living my life as a product of my story? So, for example, how many of you found that who was it? Was it Jonas that said he learned to hide the pain? So, some of you would have learned to be funny to cover the pain. Some of us would have learned to be more outgoing than we perhaps normally are, right? And some of you will have, brought in other coping mechanisms that have become part of your personality, but only came in because of your pain. Does that make any sense? For example, I really do believe that I became a performer. Yes, Kerry's saying she's a master at hiding her pain, right? I think I became a performer because I was good at it. You used to isolate yourself, Beth. We're not going to let you do that anymore. And by the way, Beth, you can run and hide, but the only person that you will be punishing is yourself. But always remember that when you do it, you're also going to be punishing the people who care about helping you. So don't go and do that to us. Rather come and have a vent moment. Remember Jodie's vent moment? Oh, so Erin's saying sometimes it's easier to act like you're okay and hide the pain than to have to explain why you're not okay. How many of you relate to that one? And just as a reminder, in case anybody's here that wasn't here on Friday, how would I describe a trigger? It feels like somebody just turned on a tape in my body. It's not just my mind that changes, my whole body seems to respond. And that's a quote from Dear Mama Sal. Kerry's saying that she uses humor or snarky comments. They come together, by the way, Kerry, as her coping mechanisms. You've heard me say that. I am very good when I'm on stage with a funny one-liner, but I can cut you off on the knees with a one-liner just as well. Do you understand? So Linda's saying, yes. Wow, that's a biggie. I am who I am because of the pain. Yeah, I think it's a great quote, Kerry, and I really thank you for finding it. Yes, Erin, there are many of us that relate to what it is that you had to say. So deep breath, everybody. Remember, if you're already triggered, come back and listen to this later. If you feel overwhelmed at any stage, just remember to stop and take a break, right, for yourself. Remember, Kerry took a break for other reasons during halfway through the broadcast last time. And so here's your question number one. All right, so here's just before we do that, Kerry's saying, I push others away, minus Erin. she plows through like the Kool-Aid man. Yes, you will know that you have grown when you can actually start telling your truth to people. As I've always said to you, who is it safe to tell your truth to? You need to find safe people. It's not just anybody. It's people that you know will not punish you with the truth. In other words, I don't want to be going and telling somebody that I'm really got myself into a snit because I was really jealous about something that somebody did. Not a nice thing, right? I don't want to advertise that to the world. I want to talk to the people I can rant and rave with. I think we all need, do you all have somebody you can vent to? Let me just check on that one. It's a really good thing to do. And I normally start by saying, I need a vent. Are you up for it? You know? Because it's not what I normally do. And I think people get really quite surprised. Yes, Erin is absolutely phenomenal to vent to. We've all found that. But also, she probably has more reason to vent than any of us. Linda saying, yeah, she vents to me. Oh, did I freeze? Yeah, so Linda says she actually writes to me. And feel free, if ever you want to vent with me, go right ahead. And if you want to write it in an email, you basically will sort out the problem just in writing to me. So feel free to do that. Just hit it, today's vent. And at the end of it, if you're feeling much better, then feel free to just write, okay, vent over, I'm feeling good. Yeah, Erin, you see, you've learned how to balance, the 2x4s and the hugs in the right places. Yeah, Jodie's saying that she uses myself and Lauren, to vent to, and we normally we normally get very amused when she vents because she's so normal. How many of you realize that when people vent, they think they're being such a bad person? Like I want, I personally want to take a 2x4 to a dance Semba person. And it's not really true, right? It's just that, my patience ran out. But Kerry, I think you had every reason to vent yesterday, and you did. Oh, I like it. Linda says, Sal, you might not give me the answer I was wanting, but it's usually the right answer. I thank you for that, Linda. I don't claim to be right all of the time, but I do try to cut through the emotion and then see what is the actual problem. So I'm learning, it's an ongoing thing, I think, to cut through the emotion. And if you can cut away the emotion, Beth, especially as a new listener on this subject, what I've been teaching everybody is when they get overwhelmed, I will start asking them, if you let go of the emotion, what's left? Because so much of what we want to vent about is purely emotion. It's not factual. How many of you can see that? I might say, I really want to kill this person, but it's not what I mean at all. What I mean is I just lost my patience. My patience ran out. Yesterday, Kerry, you ran out of being an enabler. You just realized you were being put in a position where somebody wasn't listening to your boundaries. Can I give an example? How much time have you got, Beth? All right, it happened. Oh gosh, Erin says, I actually enjoy it when people vent to me. Does it mean I've got issues? We've all got issues, Erin. Yeah, you really do enjoy, supporting people, Erin, and you're good at it. So Kerry is saying that she realized, yes, she realized part of the reason why she vented yesterday. You see, the thing is that if you are a lifelong learner, that you can start looking at these things and take a step forward. Let's think of as I was saying, I'm part of the John Sember crew, and people can ask me the stupidest questions, Beth. All right. Now, most of the time, I smile sweetly and I type really nice, polite replies and go, well, if you, for the 33rd time, if you go to the dancember.com page, you can do this, and I just type it out time and time again, or I cut and paste it or do whatever. Do you understand? Most of the time, I've got that level of patience. But let's say I have been really stressed that day and then I had like you did, Beth. A couple of tires blew. Or do you think I will have? Do you think I'll have the same level of patience? No. And then what I really want to do is, how stupid can you be? And I don't want to say that. So what I'll do is I will go to Jody and Lauren, who are my little venting team. And I will just put up, I've actually got an icon that I use that's literally somebody pulling their hair out. And then they'll know that's what I need to do. I need to vent. Yes. I totally agree with Kerry. All the best ones have issues. As the Cheshire Cat says, we're all mad around here, right? And I think, remember that we're not really as strange as venting doesn't mean you're a bad person or unable to cope. It means you're quite normal. And we don't want that. But get it out. Don't keep it in. That's how our depression happens when we turn our anger inwards. That's my view. It's not a medical view. My view is that I get depressed when I don't get my anger out, when I keep it in and turn it against myself. So, what do you do? Now, think about this, people. What do you do when you get emotionally triggered? All right. So now what we're going to try and do is give people ideas about what they can do. Do you get the idea? So, and I'm not talking about those of you who just the shutters come down and you go numb. Do any of you know that feeling? If you're not practiced in controlling your triggers, you may find that your first reaction is to have the shutters come down and you just go into numb. Do any of you? Yeah, you recognize that. Jonas, it still happens to me because I have PTSD, and I will talk to that towards the end of this. So if you can hang on, I want to talk a little bit about what PTSD does to you. Yeah, and there's a reason why. So we'll talk about that, okay? Just remind me if I try to close without discussing it because I talk too much in between. I'll put it onto another broadcast. You happy with that? Because I really did want to address for those of us who have been through trauma. All right, so Kerry, who's as honest as you ever wanted to be, she says she cusses like a blue streak, and that could make a sailor blush. And then she gets a cold drink, takes some deep breaths, and messages a safe person. Ah, that's so cute. Linda says, When she's emotionally triggered, her first thought is, okay, what would Sal tell me? And unaware and is aware, I would like to think, that the answer could be a 2x4. Hi, Melek. Good to see you again. All right. So Debbie saying when her brother died 11 years ago, she started doing retail therapy, in other words, shopping. But it got worse when her dad and lifetime partner died. Yes, and what she's saying is now I have too much stuff. She bought things to cover up the pain and make her feel better, supposedly, but now she's got the job of decluttering. And she says, I should have vented instead. Yeah, you should have cried, Debbie, and been angry at God if you needed to, all those things. Erin's saying her mum used to have a sign in the kitchen that hung upside down, and it said, "Why be normal?" Yeah, I've got one in my guest bathroom. Do you want to hear what it says, Erin? I was actually on a speaking tour. I was on a speaking tour, and I went to visit a, um, a place that was helping disabled children. And I saw this hanging up in somebody's office, and I said, that's got my name all over it. Okay, so this is what it says. It's in my guest bathroom, and it says, so this isn't home sweet home. And it's all done like cross stitch, right? So this isn't home sweet home. Adjust. How many of you know that was just, I love that a bit. Okay. So one of the things we need to do is when we feel we've been triggered, and I'm not talking about when the shutters come down because you haven't learned how to pull the shutters up yet. But for those of you who are starting to get past the shutter stage, right? Number one, identify the trigger if you can, right? What caused this? How many of you are learning to do that? Hang on a second. Something happened. What happened, right? So really good idea to find out what things are causing this. And can you tell me for you what, as I think I told you last time, anything that smacks of betrayal, anything that smacks of an injustice. There's another one I have. Oh, duplicity, two-facedness. Um, yeah, which is all part of the duplicity thing. Now, abandonment issues I have, definitely. Yes, I think we shut down to save ourselves, quite honestly. I think it's a safety mechanism. Okay, so Linda's saying she has a similar sign and it says, ha ha, we ain't normal, so adjust. Yeah, that's right. So number one, try and identify the triggers. Have any of you been working on that recently? And for those of you who've been living a life of triggers, and some of you know what I'm talking about, yes, Kerry saying that she actually shut down after her aunt's funeral, and then the floodgates opened and she completely lost it. Yeah, Melek saying that injustice and people using things against you. Yeah, that you thought you could trust them and then they use it against you. We've all, I'm pretty sure everybody here has had that happen. So you immediately know. People have always said to me, how do I know whether that person is safe? And one of the things that I say to them is, give them a little bit. Give them a little bit of information and see if they use it against you. If they, don't give them something that's a real biggie. Give them a small one. Like I've peed in the shower or something. You know what I mean? And see whether that comes back at you. Pat, hi Pat, good to see you. She says, I know my triggers, but I still get like a mad woman. How many of you going, yes, but we're learning, Pat. We can acknowledge them now. That's a step forward, right? You see, what I love about doing these broadcasts is I love that you're all so honest about it and that you can see we can laugh at it if we want to. Now, I have one that I do whenever I go into a board meeting or something like that. I promise myself that I'm not going to speak. And then they will say something that triggers me. Do any of you relate to this one? And then I come out. So part of the thing that I want to talk about today is, do you have your backup plan ready? In other words, when you can feel those symptoms that we've talked about, do you know what you're going to do as your next step? Yeah, Pat said she had a trigger last week and ended up driving into the wrong driveway. Wow, you were mad. Yeah, I really have very little self-control about keeping my mouth shut, apparently, which is why I'm better here than in a boardroom. You know? What if your next step scares you? Hmm. Okay. I think that the next step, if your next step is something that scares you more, then you need another next step. So, Linda, if you wouldn't mind, could you email me that example so I can answer that for you, but without you having to talk about it here? Can you talk to me what next step you're thinking about that scares you? Jody says her mouth gets going before she even realizes she's speaking. Yeah, and Mac also. All right. So, but what I'm saying is, let's say that we feel an injustice. All right. And let's say that all right. So, Kerry, can we talk about next steps on that one? Because I know that you got angry. Um, so how many of you have been triggered and can then do your next step? That you've learned how to do that? Okay, so Linda, are you telling me I can discuss this openly? Okay, so Linda's question is, what if your next step is scary, if there is rage or anger that you're scared of? All right, so how many of you have realized that sometimes the reason we get triggered is because we're scared of our anger? We're actually scared that if I let this anger out, I could do somebody some harm. Now, Linda, in your case, are you scared that there might be anger or harm coming at you? I want to make sure I understand. I know a little about your situation. I just want to know which side is the anger. Is it you or the other person? Now, Kerry's learned, first of all, she vented, she phoned Erin and vented, and then she took some deep breaths and a cold drink, and then went and watched Netflix. Now, lots of different parts to that, Kerry. Very good, self, whatever. Yeah. Hi, Born. Born says that, I'm not sure if Born is he or she, but Born says, my rage feels reckless. Yeah, I used to be so scared of my anger, because what I really want to do is hit this person, or I just want them to stop, right? Yes, here we go. See, apparently it's not just me. Linda's saying, if I let my anger out, yeah, I'm so scared of what I would do. My anger is so not pretty. How many of you realize that part of this reaction you're getting is because you have no words around your anger and you are dead scared of letting rip? If you can start seeing that, that is huge. And if you understand that what you don't know is how to react to that, right? Because you don't have what I call a nice person's reaction. Your only reaction is absolute anger, and somewhere in your head you know that isn't right, so you shut down. Does this make any sense to anybody? Or in the case that Kerry's talking about, the death, the pain is so bad, you shut down. Okay, good. I'm glad that some of you can see this. I want to go back to Melek's comment. She's got an email from one person who made several mistakes and then turned it around by saying, but you had one 11 years ago. Therefore, she's allowed to. Oh, yeah, okay. You're right. Okay, Jonas, no problem. Thank you. Good for having you here. Yeah, now listen to this one. Now, Pat goes, she has the opposite reaction. And that's why, Pat, you have no fear of your anger, right? So you just let rip. Now, when you're angry, you let rip. You're going to be a much healthier person for it. Now, Kerry's doing a classic. Kerry's saying, I'm German, Irish, and Irish roots. I've got a temper, hell hath no fury, like when I'm mad. Do you think that is true, or do you think that's just an excuse that you use, Kerry? Now, Beth, you will notice I didn't ask to hit her with the 2x4. It's Kerry. We have history. I'm allowed to just ask the question. Yeah. Okay, Kerry. So now what I want you to do, Kerry, if you will, what if you stopped blaming your heritage for your anger? Well, Linda, I want you to start thinking about that. I want you to start getting some words around it. Like, that makes me really angry. And I don't want to get angry because I'm sure it's not going to be pretty, but you need to know that I have that welling up inside me right now. Do you understand, Linda? Because up until now, you haven't had any words. So you just locked down. What I'm saying is it's okay to tell people, excuse my language here, they're pissing you off right now. Or I have found from my experience actually saying to people, wow, that hurt. I don't know if you intended to hurt me, but that hurt. And that's made me a little bit angry. So I'm going to need a little bit of time to recover from that. Yeah. Thank you, Kerry, saying that we have a long history, no permission needed, right? And I know that. So, and Erin's going, Kerry already knows when those 2x4s are coming, right? So let's just support Kerry a bit on this one. How many of you find that you blame your bad behavior on well, it's because I'm a female, or because I'm Irish, or because I'm whatever? How many of you have got this little thing that you use as your excuse for your bad behavior. Kerry, that is the trick. All right. The trick is, and you're right? Kerry's saying my temper is so much better than it used to be because I'm better at expressing my emotions in a healthier way. And that is what we're aiming for. If we could talk about our emotions a little bit more. Now, I understand that our emotions are our business, right? Not somebody else's. I just want to write down a book that I really recommend. Hang on a second. Um, Remember I said once Dr. Wayne Dyer wrote a book about Uranus, and I thought that's what it was called, but it's actually called Gifts from Isis. So if any of you have anxiety and want to improve it a little bit, try reading this book. Now, here's something that it is interesting to know. I found a site called Open. I've got to open it and find out what it is. Hold on 1 second. Just bear with me. I especially left it open so I could find it for you. Open. Please open. Open Library. Have any of you ever found that site? Yeah. Open Library. Right. If you've never found this site, I really recommend that you do find it because you can actually just type in gifts from ISIS. And what they've done is they've actually literally taken PDFs of just about any book you could want to read. It's a little bit more difficult, but it is free. And if so that you can start reading these books. Yes, Kerry, and you've got a vocabulary that isn't deemed ladylike sometimes, and it's not due to anything else other than the fact that you choose not to change it. Agreed? It's not because you're of Irish descent or because the flowers bloomed on the north side of the west slope. It is because you haven't done anything about it. And every now and then I let rip with unladylike words. And my question is, how do we feel afterwards? And that is my next point, which is remember to forgive yourself, apologize, and move on. Do you understand? Forgive yourself, apologize, and then move on. So if you come out with bad behavior, it's not because of your Irish descent or because you've got this or that or Jody, because you had cancer 3 years ago. You know what I'm saying? This is about bad behavior is bad behavior. Let's stop blaming it on something else. Yeah, Kerry, I know. And that's what I love about you is that you are really, we had some of you will know this person, but we had a viewer who, when they first came on, used bad words like every couple of I would think almost one word in 20 was a swear word. And I just said, I'm sorry, if you're going to do that, you can't be part of this group because we try not to do that. Occasionally somebody will let fly, but it's like, if it's part of your everyday vocabulary, no, either hush up or learn to control your vocabulary. And the funny thing was they learned to control their vocabulary because they wanted to participate. So it's doable. So, do any of you? I know Kerry's had an emotional trigger this week. Has anybody else? Actually, Kerry had one today. Yeah, Linda's saying she leaves her bad language at the back door. Good for you. So, Kerry, weekly pet, really? Okay, so something has changed in your life then. Um, I am so sorry to hear that. All right, so Pat, I don't want to pry. Actually, yeah, I do. Pat, you don't have to tell the room. Um, but is it something that we can hear about so we can support you better? All right, so Born saying somebody let their bulldog come really close to me today. It really infuriated me. So were you, the thing is this, you understand that is a reaction to possible danger, right? If it had been Jodie's little ball of cotton wool fluff, you probably wouldn't have reacted the same way. It was the fact that it was a bulldog. Pat, why don't you, if you would like me to discuss it a bit, why don't you email it to me and then I'll do the Reader's Digest version and then we'll discuss it next time we come up on the channel. So you write it exactly as you feel it, vent away, give me all the emotion that you want to, and then I'll go through it and work out the bits for you, if that would help you. You can always do that. So the first thing I try and ask, yes, Debbie, this is an interesting one. Debbie's saying that every time she hears a particular song, she starts to cry. All right. Born saying, yes, the guy with the bulldog, really dismissive, made me feel like I overreacted. And then she said, perhaps I did. All right. So that's what I want you to start thinking about. The trigger was the bulldog. Then ask yourself, did you make a judgment call about the dog because it was a bulldog? Would you have done the same thing to a Maltese Terrier? And sometimes the Maltese Terrier, by the way, can be more dangerous than the bulldog. You understand? So this is good work. So this is what your plan B is now, Born. Let's say it happens to you again. What are you going to say next time that happens? When you see a dog coming towards you that scares you a little bit. Hi, Canada. Welcome. How about you actually, before the dog gets too close, look at the owner and go, I'm a little bit scared of that dog. Do you think you could get it under control and not let it too close to me? Do you think you could say that, Born? Kerry says she's more afraid of her dog Dora than her cousin's pit bull. Yeah, I know what you mean. All right. So what I'm trying to do is to. All right. So Linda's saying, remember you saying to me years ago, Sal, my feelings are validated, but please sit back and evaluate if they are necessary. Yeah. Born, what we keep trying to do is just take a step forward. If you can see outside this and look in and go, what could I say next time? Then you have a plan B. Do you understand what I'm saying? Is try and think about, okay, that wasn't the best reaction in the world, and maybe it was unfair to the dog, but what should I have said? You see, quite often we get angry because we got scared. Remember what it said right at the beginning. Now, I want to talk a little bit Oh, Jonas, yeah, Jonas wanted this thing about PTSD. Am I the only person left that has PTSD? I just want to know if there's anybody else. I know Jonas said that he did. Um, okay, Pat does as well. Okay, so Debbie's saying that she used to be scared of a dog in elementary school and would go the other way to avoid it in the line. And the until in line, and the dog was there and everyone was petting it, and I wasn't scared anymore. And the reason you weren't scared anymore, hi BoobTube, good to see you. The reason you weren't scared anymore is because you had seen so many people touch that dog, and he didn't bite them or growl at them or attack them, right? So now you've got sort of history that you've built up. All right, so let me just give you a definition. I found a definition from verywellmind.com, and I thought it was a good definition for PTSD. Yeah, thank you for sharing it, Debbie. And thanks, Born, for being a good friend here. PTSD, internal triggers are things that you may feel or experience inside your body. Internal triggers include thoughts or memories, emotions, and bodily sensations. For example, your heart racing. External triggers are situations, people, or places that you might encounter throughout your day or things that happen to your body. Now, I wanted to talk about that because this is not easy to talk about, but I have PTSD, and people can do the most normal things, but my memory of that is so bad that I actually go into PTSD, and that's like I go really weird. um, all right, so Pat and anybody else that wants to participate in this, when you've been triggered on a PTSD things, do you have any warning signals ahead of time? I don't. It is like 1 minute I am absolutely fine, and the next minute it's like somebody turned the tape on. Yeah, the walls came down and I start to shake. And yeah, Pat's saying she doesn't. Jody, do you have any warning signs that it's about to happen? Or, okay. Oh, Linda says she gets a 2-second tingle. All right. So you understand, for those of you, I need you to understand that PTSD isn't something that we can necessarily control ahead of time. Yes. Um, so be aware. Now, I like to define PTSD, which is 1 minute you're fine, and the next minute you are acting totally irrationally, and you have no idea why until you have time to process it and work it out, and then you realize this happened. So one of the things that I've been, and I don't know if this is helping people or not, this broadcast today, but one of the things I've been reading about is that they really do suggest that we have a safety plan. And this, the safety plan is, what am I going to do when I get triggered and I feel all those feelings? What am I going to do? Yeah, Kerry says she got severe PTSD from a past trauma in childhood. I do as well. Yeah. So Linda, you're saying that your um your brain gives you a split second warning beforehand, like this is bad, right? And then the walls come down. Now I want to tell you something that I had a boss um shame me in public one day. Right? And I couldn't stop crying. Now, you all know I'm not what you might call a wilting violet, right? And that I call a spade a shovel when I need to. But that day that happened, I cried for most of the day. And I don't mean for 10 minutes or half an hour or even an hour. I mean for hours on end. The tears just kept flowing. Do you understand that isn't normal behavior? I'm pretty sure you know that's not normal behavior. So this PTSD is not the same as just getting triggered. PTSD is a whole different ball of wax. And it took me quite a while to actually get control enough so I could process it. It probably took me 8 or 9 hours. Can you believe that? No, and Kerry, that probably is a very important thing. Yeah, Beth, I Beth's asking, would going to therapy help with that? I will get back into that in a second. He was the boss boob tube, and by the way, what he had to say. Listen, for those of you who know me, he accused me of something I never did. He never asked for my opinion or my feedback on it. He just presumed I was wrong. And you understand, this set up a whole series of times this had happened, and how many times I'd been shamed and how many times I'd been wrongly accused and how many. So it was absolutely PTSD stuff in terms of being mentally abused in this way. Kerry's saying therapy actually literally saved her life, and I understand that, and I'm so glad you went for it when you did. Good. Born saying it sounds like you were cycling and recycling the thoughts and feelings. Thank you, Born. Good observation. And Boop, why would anybody shame me? You are quite right, to protect themselves. All right. When somebody does something like that, and doesn't, you understand that justice is a very strong trigger for me. And they never asked for my side of the story. They just totally believed it to be true that I was wrong. Oh, Melik, you don't have to participate verbally. This is about, we do these broadcasts because we know other people have our problems. I just love it when the people who can talk about it do talk about it, right? Because then I know other people are listening. We may never know they're in the room, but what we know is that they will be learning. And that's why we do these broadcasts. Yeah, Beth, there are quite a few people who tear people down to make themselves feel better, or who suck them into their misery because then they'll feel better. It's very, very difficult stuff. Alex says, I feel so normal, kind of. You mean in this room? And what Kerry says is she got help and medicine, and she owned that she needed some help and demanded it. Yeah. So, Malik, just that you say that makes my day and makes all the hours I spend worthwhile, because that's what I always believed. I always believed that there are so many people who would love to be able to talk about these things, but nobody wants to talk about them. Nobody wants to, you know, discuss them in a way that you maybe laugh at yourself and see that, hey, this happens to more people than you think. Yeah. And my question to myself always was, what if I could help? What word it in such a way that it doesn't sound like gobbledygook? What if I could take a psychological principle and actually make it funny? Would people listen to me? Right. So Beth's saying she gets sucked into her sister's stuff. Yeah. Hear that sound. How many of you have heard that sound this week? Somebody sucking you into their stuff. By the way, the good thing is learning to put down those boundaries so you don't get sucked in. Well, I want to tell you something, Kerry. As you know, I was in and out of depression for most of my life until I realized what was going on. It took me a long time and a lot of hard work. But you know something? Then, I look at it now and I go, wow, it taught me a lot. And the good fun thing? I've been able to help a lot of people because of it. BoobTube says, I hear that sound when the sump pump goes. Yeah. So for those of us with PTSD, do you have warning signs? I don't. What is your safety plan? My safety plan is to get somewhere safe. Or, if I have to leave, if I'm at work and I have to leave if necessary, do it. I don't drive very far. Maybe walk to the nearest coffee shop and sit and think, right? I need to think what happened. I need to be able to process out what happened. Once I can process it, once I can process it, I can recover. But I can't recover until I can process. Linda's saying that she gets it on depression. She used to get it on depression, but now I talked you into a safe place. Yeah, you see, it's really important to understand that we have allowed people to do this to us. We are nice people, and people have abused that niceness, unfortunately. Okay, Debbie's saying, if you don't want to take drugs, but will you take alternative drugs for depression? What will you take? What will you do to get out of depression? I do need to make sure everybody knows that you have a choice as to whether you take the drugs or not. And by the way, if you happen to be somebody who has insurance, be careful before taking the drugs, because some insurance companies, if they hear that you went on antidepressants, will punish you for it. So make sure you check on what you're doing. Beth is asking a really interesting question. So is lying okay to not get sucked in, like saying, I'm not home when I am? I normally try and find a way of saying it. Yeah, and then Beth says, and I'm ready for the 2x4. Yeah, I took drugs for a while, people. I always say to people, if you broke your leg, would you wear a cast? If they clinically diagnose you as depressed, it's not a little bit, right? Doctors won't put you on meds if they really don't think you need it, I don't think. Oh, all right, Canada, I'm coming back to that. Yeah, Beth, let me think here. What was this? I try not to lie. Let me try and think how I'd say that. What I'd say is, I'd love to be able to say yes, but today I can't. You don't have to give a reason. And if they say, why not? You say, it's a personal thing. The answer is no. Yeah. So I don't encourage people to lie. I encourage people to hide the truth. So if you're a yes person, if you always say yes to people and you want to change that, keep saying yes. Say, you know something? Yes, I would love to say yes. But unfortunately today I can't. Ah, bless you, Canada. That's really kind. She says I'm like the grandmother she never had. And I never was. Yes, I don't feel up to it, which is the truth, right? Beth, we understand that. But what I've discovered, and I don't know how many of you understand this, that when you lie to somebody, you pay the price. Do any of you notice that? I used to say to people, "Oh, sorry, I know you invited me to the party today, but unfortunately, I'm sick today." I've done that, and afterwards, I feel terrible. I end up being sick just because I told that sort of a lie. Yes, lying hurts you. It goes both ways. So that's why, Beth, you heard me say, please work on not lying as much. Right. And Linda's saying she no longer lies, she just avoids the truth, right? So that's a different story. Yeah. So, Beth, you got caught on your lie, right? And then you feel it's a horrible feeling, isn't it? So, here's your assignment for the week, people. First of all, did any of you find this helpful? Awesome. I'm really pleased to hear that. And would you like me to continue doing these sort of difficult subjects? Canada, you're so funny. So, yes, Pat, it's so important to know you're not alone. Yes, Kerry had somebody that was trying to suck them in big time. Whoever said that about somebody sucking them in? Kerry had a huge thing with that this week, and she ended up muting the person so they couldn't suck her in anymore. Ah, Canada. All right, so here's your assignment for the week. All right. I really want you to work on, oh, that triggered me. Start owning the triggers and then go, why? Right? Start processing. And you go, because they didn't agree with me or whatever it is. So, what is the emotion? And Dr. Jerry Jampolsky said, love is letting go of fear, and that there are basically only two emotions, love and fear. So, what was the fear that I reacted that way? All right. That's what I'd like you to start looking at. So, Beth, what was the fear that you needed to lie? I want you to start processing that. How can you tell a person is lazy or has depression, right? You're not sure whether the reason they're being lazy is because they're depressed or they're just a lazy so and so. Hi, Sal, and good to see you. How many of you would like me to not try, do some research and use that as a topic? How do you tell? Let me tell you something. For example, Beth came onto the broadcast a few weeks ago and sounded like she was depressed on various levels, and then proved that she actually still has control. If she still has control, I would say she's not depressed. Right. BoobTube is saying it might not be a fear that makes us lie. It might just be we don't want to associate with that person. And so what is it? We don't want to tell them that. We're scared. It's a fear. Yeah, I have to go as well because I'm cooking roast beef and Yorkshire pudding, and I haven't started the Yorkshire pudding. So, people, I am hoping that you all got some benefit out of this. I will definitely do a little bit of research into, where you would draw that line. Quite honestly, my experience has been, are you talking about somebody else or about yourself? Which one do you want me to do? How can you tell that in somebody else, or how do you tell for yourself? Wow, Jada, seek first to understand would be the best bit of advice I was given. No, the best bit of advice I was ever given is please take your bad points and make them work for you. That's how because I thought being somebody with verbal diarrhea was a bad thing. And until somebody showed me it was a natural talent, and why didn't I take that talent and use it? And I just went, what? So that to me was the best one. And the second best one was seek first to understand. So when somebody does something that's really weird and you're going, "La, la, 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 la," ask a question, right? I saw you do this. Is there a reason why you're doing that? Did I do something to create that? I just trying to find out. And you'll be amazed how many times it's really weird. The answer you get isn't what you thought at all. So seek first to understand. I've got to go and make Yorkshire pudding. People, thank you so much for sharing your time with me. Thank you for being there. Um, and above all, thank you for trusting me with your stories. Well, Malik, I realize not everybody has the availability. That's why I wanted to talk about some of these things, just so that we could share your experiences and show you guys, really, you're not nearly as sick and weird as you think you are. There are an awful lot of us that totally understand what you're talking about. So, this is Dear Mama Sal. By the way, for some of you, you need to know, I said, when I am depressed, the only people that make any sense to me are people that have been there and done that. They make a lot more sense than the people who have only read the books. Does that make anybody smile? I can tell if you've only ever read the book. The fact they gave you a degree in this doesn't mean you understand it one iota. And I have told a few very well lettered people that, it's like, really? So you read the book on this, huh? You've never had it, so you have no idea what it really feels like, but now you're an expert. Hmm. Let me tell you, you haven't the idea. Big hugs, everybody. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your honesty. And those of you who've been honest today and shared your stories, you know how many people you're helping, because we don't know who listens to this and gets help. How many times have I received notification? I've been listening to you for months and I never dared talk before. So thank you, people. Have a great week. I will talk to you again on Friday lunchtime Pacific time. And I will continue to do this sort of thing if it's making sense to people and if it's helping. This is Dear Mama Sal saying thank you to Jody for all the hard work she does on the background here and keeping me on track. And thank you to all of you for participating, and make this week better for yourself. Remember to look after one another. But please, please, please remember to look after yourself as you did, Kerry. I'm so proud of you. And Beth, keep up the great work. This badge has got your name on it. This is Dear Mama Sal saying bye-bye for now. Yorkshire pudding, here I come.